Welcome to Mining Review Africa, and we are at Mining Indaba 2026. And today we are speaking to Menar about the state of the coal industry, the trends that will drive the industry, and also the company's plans to expand its footprints in South Africa. We are now speaking to Ruan Nothnagel, who's the Chief Commercial Officer of Menar. Ruan, thank you for joining us today.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Great. Now, can you tell me, are global coal markets showing any signs of recoveries? And what are the key trends that are you expecting to see this year?
So, look, I think coal demand last year was better than the year before, especially out of South Africa. We sold more coal out of South Africa, and that trend will continue into this year. But because of the sort of global economic uncertainty, specifically driven by Trump, the Trump tariffs, that has caused an uncertainty in prices, and that has put suppliers under a lot of pressure. So what you've seen is demand has remained relatively stable, but at the prices we've seen over the last year, a lot of suppliers have had to cut down production. So in South Africa, I've got a list of around 26 mines that have had to either cut production or close their mines. And that's definitely putting pressure on the supply side, and that is happening all over the world. I mean, over and above that, you've got supply cuts out of Indonesia. So the theme for me this year is going to be from the supply side. Demand's going to be there, and what currently, as we speak, the demand is inelastic. So meaning if the coal price goes up $10 a ton, there's not going to be less demand, and there won't be any more new supply within 6 to 8 months of that, because the supply side doesn't just turn on automatically. It takes a while to reopen a mine. So you're definitely seeing a real tightness on the supply side, and any sort of major interruption on the supply side, like we saw in Queensland when they had the heavy rains, the derailments, that immediately impacted the coking coal prices. They went $10 overnight. Look at the recent moves due to the Indonesian cuts. So it's an inelastic market, and any supply side disruption or any major demand event, like extremely cold temperatures or extremely hot temperatures, will see prices go up significantly. So it's going to be a year of volatility, but it's bullish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Ruan, can you tell me just how competitive is South Africa's coal export industry? And also talk to me about Menar's plan to establish mid to long-term opportunities.
Yeah, so South Africa's coal is unique. So I formerly was based in India, marketing all of the world's coal into India. And so I know personally that only South African coal makes the specifications in order for the Indians to produce sponge iron. So South African coal is primarily, it's the only viable source to make sponge iron in India. And that's why half of South Africa's coal goes there. There's one other mine in Australia that can make the spec, but it's small tons, and it's got a very big freight disadvantage because it's further to ship. So basically, South African coal makes sponge iron in India. What is that used for? It's basically to build the infrastructure of India.
Right.
All right. So, and India is on a massive growing trend. Their steel sector is forecast to increase 300% in capacity over the next 5 years. As their infrastructure grows, their steel consumption per capita is about 100 kilograms per person, whereas China is 4 times that. So they've got a lot to grow, and they're very focused. They're focused on growing their steel sector and growing their infrastructure. So that's bullish, and that's not really impacted by the tariffs at all. India will grow. They'll build more houses, more apartments, more roads, more bridges, and more infrastructure. And that's why South African coal is uniquely positioned in that way. The other half of the South African coal is sold to over 40 different countries, and that portion is impacted by Indonesian pricing, Australian pricing. But the moment there is a shortage of Indonesian coal, it immediately impacts South African coal, because the other half that can't go to India needs to be priced higher.
Right.
So what Menar is doing to kind of position itself for the medium to long term is we're just focusing on really high quality production. So if you know that India is half your coal, half your customer, then you need the fixed carbon, because they buy the fixed carbon. They don't buy the thermal. They buy the fixed carbon as a reductant in your coal. So we're focusing on really high quality projects, and that's the best thing you can do in South Africa to position yourself for the long term. And then over and above that, we were awarded 8.6 million tons of private rail access by TRIM, Transnet Rail Infrastructure Management. And we are in the process of developing that business to unlock more of our high quality resources and sell that into the market.
Great stuff. Well, Ruan, thank you for your insights and for joining us on Mining Review Africa.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. And now we're speaking to Waheed Sulaiman, who's head of projects at Menar. Waheed, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me,
Now, since acquiring Khwelamet, what progress has been made and what are the key milestones for this year? And also, how do you manage to lower your cost?
Yeah, okay, sure. Thanks for asking that. We acquired Khwelamet last year, June. And since acquiring it, we developed a development plan for the site. And right now we're focusing on making sure the site remains safe, doing the rehabilitation work that needs to be done, making sure the environment is looked after. And we're now moving to the phase where we're trying to generate revenue within the site. So we're looking to sell, we've got waste material, old slag material there.
Yeah.
So we're processing that to recover the manganese metal from that, looking to sell that. We're looking to generate aggregates material, which is used in the roads and construction industry. So this is good because it's taking waste material from the site and generating value from it, reducing the footprint on the site as well. So it's a win-win for us in that regards. And we're now moving into other projects as well on the site there. We are looking at developing our energy park on the site. So that entails putting up a solar farm. It looks at putting up, the site's got a 50 megawatt gas-fired power plant. So we're looking either at restarting that or putting up a coal plant there as well. And in the long term, the ultimate objective is to restart the smelters there. So that site was home to the largest smelting complex in the world at the point in time. We're looking to restart 2 of the furnaces there. And we're aiming to produce about 250,000 tons a year of manganese ferroalloy. And we reckon that we'll do that within the next 2 years or so. So there's a lot of work we need to prepare in advance for that. We need to fix the furnaces. We need to source the ore, get the people, right electricity price as well, which you can chat about also.
Yeah.
So we're doing all of that work now, and the planning work and the desktop work. So there's a lot of activity on the site. It's very exciting.
Okay. Now let's touch on the electricity topic. How do you expect the proposed tariff reforms to affect South Africa's ferroalloys sector? And what do you believe is needed to stabilize the sector and restore its global competitiveness?
So I feel it's positive. I do think that we need a proper long-term solution though. I don't think it's sustainable just to offer a really cheap electricity price because someone's got to pay for it at a point in time. So it's good to revive the industry because the industry has really been destroyed. So it helps get it back on its feet, and that's part of it. In the long term, it's our view that companies should be able to generate their own power. So for example, we want to build our own power plant, coal power plant, and that can power our furnaces. And that for us is a more sustainable, longer term solution. We'd really appreciate the cheap electricity. We need that to get going. But after that, we should be able to stand on our own feet and not rely on subsidies from whomever to keep us going. Beyond that, I think there are other measures which we can look at from a policy perspective. So looking at tax incentives for, especially if we're trying to reindustrialize the country, at businesses that are moving in that direction. And again, once the business is sustainable, those can be withdrawn. So there are certain things that we do need as a country to just incentivize and to help get these businesses going. The ports and rail efficiencies are improving. Those are also very important to us. And I think we've got support from the Department of Transnet in that, or transport in that regard. We've been allocated allocation on the rail lines from the Northern Cape to Meyerton. That will help us to bring the ore from that part of the world to Meyerton.
Yeah.
And then we've got allocation from Meyerton to the Durban ports, which enables us to export the alloy. So, we are moving in the right direction as a country. I think that it's challenging and there are opportunities out there. We just need to take advantage of it and work together with other stakeholders. Yeah.
Great, sir. Well, Waheed, thank you for your insights and for joining us on Mining Review Africa today.
Sure. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Now I'm speaking to Mkhabela, who's the chairman of Menar. Thank you for joining us. Can you tell me which upcoming projects in Menar's pipeline are most critical to the business right now? And how will access to Transnet's rail network support them?
Well, the most important project we're involved in right now speaks to our evolution as a company. Evolving being primarily a mining company with a bit of processing of coal on the sites for different specifications. Now we move to being adding manufacturing capabilities of manganese, so we can process manganese ore to ferroalloy. And after we bought the industrial complex at what we now call Khwelamet, it used to be Met Alloys.
Right.
Now the next stage of our evolution is what we're now adding logistics, which now brings me to your question, which is what is the biggest thing we want to do this year? We have already established Menar Ports and Rail, which is one of the train operating companies under the newly licensed like the other 10. We're among the 11 that we're given the opportunity to mine by TRIM.
Yeah.
So we are now, we've established Menar Ports and Rail. We're now setting up all the structures of the company because it's going to be the biggest thing that we'll do this year. It will be a biggest project outside hardcore mining, but it is meant to support our mining projects.
Right.
It's meant to enable our mining projects. We've got sizable mines that are currently being licensed, and anytime we can bring them into operation. So this is going to enable both our manganese processing facility, because we're going to ship manganese from Northern Cape to Menar.
Yeah.
And then we're also going to ship input products into the site. And then we're going to also transport coal to ports. And also we're going to transport ferromanganese to the port. So it's a very much enabling project, much as it is also an integral part of our business.
Right.
So we're really looking forward to it. In terms of the mining projects themselves, we got two big projects that we're looking at. One is already fully licensed. We're just doing some fine tuning around modeling of the mine to make sure that we can mine depending on who the off-takers of the product are. That's Begazela, which is going to produce 7.2 million ton a year, and it's based in Springs. It's fully licensed. We're now just doing some few modalities depending on the off-takers, then we're going to model our mine accordingly. The other one is also a 7.2 million ton a year mine. It's also still being licensed, and it's in Vereeniging, close to the Menar site. Mm-hmm. So it's at an advanced stage of being licensed. So we're looking forward to also enabling that. There are other projects also on the pipeline, but those two are the major ones.
Okay. Now, Mpumelelo, tell me, investor sentiment in South African mining varies. Some are dissuaded from investing, while others are a bit more cautious. Yet Menar continues to invest and operate in South Africa. What gives you such confidence to operate in this mining environment?
No, well, I think some people blow out of proportions the risks that we have in the country. So we have taken a totally different approach. We believe that this country has got all the resources to solve whatever challenge it has. Mm-hmm. Resources in terms of human capital, in terms of actually resources in minerals, resources in terms of infrastructure, even though a lot of it still needs to be built and modernized and looked after and maintained. But nonetheless, it's there. The basics in South Africa are there. And we also have a very sophisticated financial system, deep capital markets here, and a very strong judiciary. Never mind the challenges, but commercial disputes in South Africa can be resolved in a very matured and proper way, either in the mainstream judicial system or through arbitration methods, which are also recognized in law. So that makes it very easy. So, and property rights are also very much guaranteed in South Africa. No one can wake up in the morning and arbitrarily repossess you of your property.
Right.
So you've got recourse. So all of those things, we believe, put South Africa in a very a nice position. We are not starting from ground. We build on what we have, and we've got the resources to solve our problems.
Right.
But we also have the advantage of geological, location. Geolocation of the country's location in the southern tip of the continent.
Yeah.
We've got access to both seas,
Yeah.
and we've got access to shipping routes for export, and we've got wonderful ports, which obviously need to be upgraded, modernized, and the private sector now is very much involved. We are also interested in helping to build the infrastructure. So we've got everything that is going right in this country, and where things are not going right, we have the resources to solve those things.
Right.
So that's what makes us positive about the country.
Great stuff. Mpumelelo, thank you for joining us on Mining Review Africa today.